Assalamualaikum and good morning, madam. We are from Group 6. Today, we will be presenting about analysis of comparative financial performance, which is a trend and comparative study of Panasonic and Khan. First presenter will be Laila Izzatul Maisara, and second presenter me, Nurul Ashira Shazwani binti Judin, and third presenter will be Muhammad Omar bin Musa, and fourth presenter Efiana Marzan. We are all from BA to H0.
My name is Laila Izzatul Maisara and I will be presenting about company's background. The first company is Panasonic. Panasonic is headquartered in Kodama, Osaka, Japan. It is founded in 1918 by Konosuke Matsushita as Matsushita Electric Housewares Manufacturing Works. Panasonic changing its name to Panasonic Corporation in 2008, and Panasonic currently oversees a wide range of products including industrial equipment, professional communication, home appliance, house materials, and energy solutions. The second company is Kin. Kin is a Malaysian company and it is started in 1961 by Mr. Cheng King Fa. It was called a Syarikat Listrik Ki Hen, and it was a small electric appliance repair shop in Sikinchan, Malaysia. Kin currently operation is manufacturing of household appliance, electric equipment, appliance and components, as well as the wholesale distribution of electrical and electronic goods.
Hello, I'm Nurul Ashira Shazwani binti Judin. I will presenting about the liquidity ratio. First of all, I will explain about the current ratio. The current ratio measures a company's ability to pay short-term debts with its current assets. For Kind, the current ratio stayed the same at 2 times across all 5 years from 2019 to 2023. For the Panasonic, the ratio was higher, starting at 5 times in 2019 and 2020, then slightly dropping to 4 times in 2021 and 2022 before rising again to 5 times in 2023. This shows that Panasonic had stronger liquidity compared to Kind throughout the years. Next, I will presenting and explain about the quick ratio. The quick ratio removes inventory to focus on the most liquid assets. For Kind, it was stable at 1 time every year from 2019 to 2023. Meanwhile, Panasonic maintained 4 times from 2019 until 2022 and increased to 5 times in 2023. This means Panasonic had a much stronger ability to pay its short-term obligation without depending on inventory. Next, I will explain the last part of liquidity ratio, which is net working capital. Net working capital is the difference between current assets and current liabilities. For Kind, the values were 93 million in 2019, 113 million in 2020, 113 million in 2021, 154 million in 2022, and 155 million in 2023. For the Panasonic, the value were much higher, 626 million in 2019, then decreased gradually to 566 million in 2020, 538 million in 2021, 487 million in 2022, before slightly recovering to 529 million in 2023. Overall, Panasonic maintained stronger working capital than Kind. Next, I will explain the efficiency ratio, which is inventory turnover. The inventory turnover ratio measures how quickly a company sells its inventory. For Kind, it was 3.33 in 2019, 3.95 in 2020, 3.28 in 2021, 3.75 in 2022, and 3.60 in 2023. For Panasonic, the values were much higher in 2019 at 18.65, then dropped to 11.64 in 2020, 11.38 in 2021, 8.62 in 2022, and slightly improved to 12.48 in 2023. This shows Panasonic was more efficient in inventory management, although the turnover declined after 2019. Next, I will explain the average collection period. The average collection period shows how long it takes to collect payments from customers. For Kind, it was 69 days in 2019, 80 days in 2020, 71 days in 2021, 70 days in 2020, and 79 days in 2023. Panasonic was faster, taking only 34 days in 2019, 26 days in 2020, 38 days in 2021, 48 days in 2022, and 35 days in 2023. This means Panasonic collected customers' payments much faster than Kind. Next, I will present and I will explain the fixed asset turnover. The fixed asset turnover ratio shows how efficiently a company uses its fixed assets to generate sales. Kind recorded 9 in 2019, then increased to 11 in 2020, 14 in 2021, 13 in 2022, and dropped slightly to 12 in 2023. Panasonic, on the other hand, stays steady at 5 in 2019, 4 in 2020, 2021, and 2023, and slightly lower at 3 in 2022. This indicates that Kind was more efficient than Panasonic in generating revenue from its fix. I will explain the total asset turnover. The total asset turnover ratio shows how efficiently a company uses all its assets to generate sales. For Kind, it was 1 in 2019. Then rise to 2 from 2020 to 2022, before going back to 1 in 2023. For Panasonic, the ratio stayed constant at 1 every year from 2019 to 2023. This shows that Kind performed slightly better in some years at utilizing assets for sales. That's all from me. Thank you.
Now we are moving to the leverage ratio. First leverage ratio is debt ratio. For Panasonic, debt ratio from 17.12% to 13.80%, low and stable, while for Kind from 51.32% to 38.07%, high but improving. This means Panasonic less reliant on debt financing. On the other hand, debt to equity ratios for Panasonic increased from 0.20% to 0.26%, while for Kind decreased from 1.06% to 0.61%. In this case, Kind is more leveraged, while Panasonic stronger equity base. Moving on to the times interest earned. For Panasonic, the times interest earned increased from 5.51 to 14.01 times, stable at 6.93 in 2023, while for Kind from 0.67 to 10.96 times, fell to 2.59 in 2023. This means Panasonic shows stronger ability to cover interest expenses. To conclude, Panasonic maintains stronger financial stability and lower leverage risk, while Kin is still more dependent on debt financing.
Greetings to Madam. I am Eviana Marjan from BA 280. Today, I'll be presenting an analysis of profitability ratios, which help us measure how efficiently a company generates profit relative to its sales, asset, and operation. The first ratio is gross profit margin, which shows how much profit the company makes after covering the cost of goods sold. Our results show margins of 18.45%, 19.01%, 18.68%, and 10.91%, as well as 11.28% across the periods analyzed. We can see that the margin started relatively high, close to 19%, but later declined to around 11%. This suggests rising costs or reduced pricing power, impacting the company's ability to keep the profit at the gross level. Next, the operating profit margin, which considers earnings before interest and taxes relative to sales. The margin recorded were 11.64%, 13.42%, 13.91%, 6.1%, and 9.21%. This tells us that the company was once generating healthy operating profits above 13%, but later dropped sharply to 6%, before slightly improving to 9%. The dip indicates challenges in controlling operating expenses or lower operating efficiency during that time. Now, the net profit margin, which measures overall profitability after all expenses, interest, and taxes. The result were 9.38%, 11.12%, 13.91%, 6.1%, and 9.21%. Here, we see a strong performance initially with margins above 30%, but then a decline to 6%, although it recovered to 9%. The inconsistency, possibly due to financial costs or tax burdens. Lastly, the return on assets, which measure how effectively the company uses its assets to generate profit. The ratio were 10.83%, 11.59%, 11.97%, 5.61%, and 8.97%. A decline from nearly 12% to just above 5% suggests a period where assets were not being utilized efficiently. The recovery to nearly 9% shows improvement, but still below the earlier levels.
The last one is conclusion. In conclusion, there are significant variation in liquidity, leverage, activity, and profitability between Panasonic Holdings Corporation and Kin Holdings Berhad. According to a 2019 to 2023 comparative financial analysis, Panasonic continuously showed reduced leverage and increased liquidity, demonstrating its capacity to fulfill short-term commitments without jeopardizing its financial stability. On the other hand, Kin demonstrates consistent progress in a number of liquidity metrics, but its profitability and efficiency ratios trail behind, indicating difficulties in effectively managing costs and scaling operation. That's all from us. Thank you.